Okay, we're going to do the binomial expansion question from the March assessment with the C2 part. Here we've got to find the first three terms in ascending powers of x for 2 minus 3x all to the power 6, giving each term in its simplest form. By ascending powers of x, that means we're looking for a constant term, an x and an x squared. Think of your constant term as x to the power of 0, and then you can see how it's going in ascending powers of x. So you need to make yourself familiar with the binomial expansion formula, which can be found in the formulae booklet. You'll get given that in your exam. Now, if you to expand this out, the long way, you'd have to do 2 minus 3x, multiplied by 2 minus 3x, multiplied by 2 minus 3x, etc. And you'd have 6 of those brackets. And you'd have to expand the first 2 out, then you'd have to times it by another 2 minus 3x, and so on. And that will take you a very long time. What you would get, if you did that, is you'd have to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, i.e. 2 to the power of 6. Okay, that's just to show you where that comes from. Where you'll find that is just by looking at the formulae booklet and applying the binomial expansion. Okay, so you'd have to do the 2 to the power of 6 because that's what a is. A is 2 in this case. Then you're going to do 6 choose 1. Okay, and you can work that in your calculator, or you can use the formula, which is in the formulae booklet as well. And then you're going to multiply this by 2 to the power of 5 this time. Okay, because each time your power of 2 is going to get less by 1. And what's going to increase by 1 each time is the power of minus 3x. Okay, so that's just be minus 3x all to the power of 1. Really careful that you be really careful that you include that negative sign in there. You want to have that minus 3 in there. Okay, a lot of you when you did this question forgot to put that sign in. So then we do 6 choose 2. So look at the pattern. 6, that's just your power of n, is on top, and then the number on the bottom is increasing by 1 each time. So there you've got to do 6 choose 2. Now for the power of 2, each time the power is decreasing by 1. So it's 2 to the power of 6, that was 2 to the power of 5, now it's 2 to the power of 4. Now your minus 3x, that's increasing by a power of 1 each time. In the first term you can't actually see anything, but essentially that's minus 3x all to the power of 0. In the first term that's minus 3x, essentially, whilst I haven't put it, essentially to the power of 1, so this is going to be the power of 2. Okay, and you should always find out that the power of a plus the power of b should equal n. So in this case, in the first term, 6 plus 0 is 6. The second term even, 5 plus 1 is 6, and the third term there, 4 plus 2 makes 6 as well. So you've got your first three terms. There's no need to go any further with this. So just then work these terms out. So let me do that again. So the first term will be 64, which is 2 to the power of 6. Now 6 choose 1 will be 6. If you're not sure where that came from, work it out on the calculator or use the formula that is provided in the book. You're going to times it by 32, that's 2 to the power of 5, multiplied by minus 3x, which gives you minus 576x when you work it all out. A lot of people lost a mark here because they didn't have the negative, so we've got positive and minus there, so that just becomes negative. We can get rid of that. And then for our final term, we just work out 6 choose 2, we multiply by 2 to the power of 4, and then we multiply by minus 3x all squared. Make sure that's in the bracket there, because otherwise if you just leave that as minus 3x squared without the bracket, well, what BidMaths will do is you'll square the x, but you're not squaring the minus 3, so you have a negative when you want a positive. So if it's all in the bracket there, that means you're doing minus 3x multiplied by minus 3x, which gives you 9x squared. Multiply it by your 32, multiply it by your 6, choose 2, and you should get 2160x squared. And that will be 4 marks if you have that. You get a mark for having some attempt at using the binomial expansion. You might be allowed 1 slip for the first mark. Too many slips and you won't get that mark though. You get a mark if you wrote down 64 and you get a mark for the minus 576x and a mark for your final term as well. Right, so my voice is back, so we're going to do the second part now. It says hence or otherwise. Now remember, with a hence or otherwise question, that is strongly suggesting that you use something that you used earlier on the question. Kind of like saying, you know, you can use what you've done in the first part. We recommend you do it. If you don't, then it's probably going to be a lot of a harder way around of doing it. Okay, so we've got to find the first 3 terms of the expansion of 2 minus 3x to all the power 6 multiplied by 1 plus x over 2. Now we've just found out the expansion of 2 minus 3x all the power 6, so there's no point of doing that again. What we're going to do is then we're going to multiply that by the 1 plus x over 2. So our expansion was 2, sorry, so again. So I'm multiplying it by this part here. Now from the first part we had 64 minus 576x plus 2160 squared. Sorry about the writing here. Let you on a fun fact, this stylus came from Pound World. Right, so now we're going to multiply out these brackets, okay? Now, you're probably used to expanding double brackets where you've got 2 terms in each bracket. All that's different here is you've got 3 terms in the second one, so we're going to have to do 1 times 64, 1 times the minus 576x, 1 times the 2160x squared, and then you're going to multiply all those terms by the x over 2 as well. So we do 1 times the 64, should be simple enough for A-level students. Then we do x over 2 multiplied by 64, which just gives us 32x. And then we're going to do the 1 times the minus 576x. Then you do x over 2 multiplied by the minus 576x as well. You don't have to do it in this order. You could do 1 times everything in the second bracket. You could then do x over 2 times everything in the second bracket. Whichever way you find easiest. The way I'm doing it is just to multiply by the first term in the second bracket, multiply everything in the first bracket by everything in the second term in the second bracket, and so on. So now I'm going to do x over 2, multiply that minus 576x over 2, which just gives me negative 288x squared. Okay, remember x times x will give you x squared, so be careful with your careful with your indices there. Also, make sure you simplify your coefficients. Okay, don't leave that 576 over 2. You might get the first mark for it, but you'll lose marks later on. It does say you do want to give this in its simplest form. And then we're going to do 1 times 2160 x squared, and then we're going to multiply it by the, well, we can multiply it by the do x over 2 multiplied by 2160x squared. I mean, feel free to show that it works out as 1080x to the power of 3. So I've not quite got through to quite fit that on. But actually, that doesn't matter, that part. Okay, because we're only finding the first 3 terms. We're not interested in the x cubes. So we don't actually really care about that term. So we can disregard that one. So the first term is going to be 64. Your second term is 544x. That's just collecting together your like terms, okay? 32x minus 576x. And then you're going to collect together your x squares, which gives you a positive 1872x squared. You get a mark for the first line that I showed you, and then at the end here you get a mark for the minus 440x, and you get a mark for the 1872x squared, providing that you have that 64 there.